The one where Rachel smokes is the 18th episode of the 5th season of Friends. This is directed by Todd Holland, and as always there will be spoilers from now as I go through the episode and share some thoughts, and I've grouped my notes by main part of the narrative, and we have 3 parts to the story, so I'll go through them in turn, and I'll start off with the part with the title reference, and this is the fact that Rachel has started at her new job, and her boss smokes, and her colleague smokes, and she's feeling a little bit left out whenever they go out on a cigarette break. So she tries to spend time with them, but she ends up smoking because she's worried about missing out on opportunities. And while I definitely do not agree with her smoking, we do actually see her missing out on opportunities because she steps away. And it's a pretty difficult situation for her to be in. I think the episode did a really great job of highlighting the fact that starting smoking just to be closer to your boss and colleagues is not a good idea. There's a scene in Central Park where Rachel she walks in and Monica and Chandler are there, and she smells so disgusting because of the cigarette smoke that Monica can't even stand to be around her. And if you smoke, you might not know how bad it smells. It is a common thing that if somebody smokes and then they stop smoking, only then do they realise how strong the smell actually is. And obviously Monica is very aware of this, to the point where she has to leave because she can't be around Rachel. And I don't blame her. I'm not a smoker. I hate the smell. And while I think they definitely showed Rachel's concerns about being left out, they did a really great job of showing that actually it's not going to be the best solution to your problems. So it's definitely an interesting part of the narrative. And I imagine something that a lot of people would have to deal with. Maybe not so much in a vaping age. Vaping is definitely not as nasty to be around. As a non-smoker, I cannot be around people who smoke when they're smoking, obviously. But if somebody's vaping near me, I don't mind it quite as much. And I guess that's because it usually smells okay. So I'd like to think that this is not as relevant today, but if somebody were to tell me that actually it is, I would also believe that. We then have part of the narrative focusing on the fact that it's Rachel's birthday in a month, and Phoebe and Monica are planning a surprise party for her because, of course, it will be a surprise since her birthday is not for another month. And Monica did what Monica does best, and she organised everything, leaving nothing for Phoebe to do. And I think there's a really good lesson there that even if you love planning and organising and you're good at it, if you're meant to be working as a team, make sure you leave something for your teammate to do. And Monica puts Phoebe in charge of cups and dice. And Phoebe says, fine, I will be in charge of cups and dice. And she gives it a brilliant Phoebe treatment by making it slightly wacky, but actually it looks brilliant at the same time. The decorations are all cups, and then we have loads of different coloured cups as well. I'm not saying I would personally want to replicate that at a party, but it actually looks pretty great. And she got loads of different kinds of ice, and there's a snow cone machine. She went all out, and it's really great. And it backfired on Monica because nobody's wanting to eat Monica's food because they're filling up on snow cones, and it's really good fun. And then Rachel comes in and, as expected, she is surprised. And then we have the brilliant moment where she points out that Chandler's birthday is even before hers, which I just thought was so funny. We cut to Chandler just standing there kind of sheepishly with a snow cone, and I loved it. It was brilliant. It's a nice part of the narrative. Then we have the bit focusing on Joey and also Ben, and I feel like it's been forever since we saw Ben. I could be misremembering it, but it feels like it's been quite a while. And it starts off with Carol and Ross coming into Central Park with Ben. They'd just been in the park, and a casting director had invited Ben to an audition for a TV commercial. And Joey becomes really jealous. Apparently this is a really big name casting director. And he convinces Ross, not that it took much convincing, but he convinced Ross to let him go down to the audition with Ben to see if he could also get an audition. And things are going well, but we then find out that they've narrowed it down to 2 people, or 2 sets of people. Kyle, an adult called Kyle, and Ben, or Joey, and a child called Raymond. So it looks like either Ben or Joey will get the gig, but not both of them. And it causes some tension, and it's a little bit awkward. And I don't really know how I'd handle that in that situation, because obviously this is Joey's career. In theory, if he got the gig and worked with the director could then look out for him in future roles, and it could help his career grow. But at the same time, Ben is an adorable little child, and it would be sweet to see him in the commercial. However, Joey kind of fluffed it up, and it's one of my favourite Joey moments, actually. It's very brief, but I love it, and I cannot look at noodle soup without thinking of this, because he's meant to say, soup, and he keeps saying, noodle soup. And just ever since I first saw this many, many, many years ago, whenever I look at noodle soup, this is what I hear, and I love it, and it's so fun. And needless to say, based on that performance, Joey didn't get the gig. And Ross comforted him by saying, maybe you messed up because you cared more about your godson. I don't believe that for 1 second, but at the same time, it was nice for Ross to try and give Joey a reason for not getting it. And Ben didn't get it either. So I don't know what they did, because we were told that it was either going to be Kyle and Ben or Joey and Raymond. I guess maybe they decided it didn't matter if they didn't look that alike, and Kyle and Raymond got the gig. That's what I'm assuming happened. And it's a sweet part of the story, and I rather liked it, and it was nice to see Ben for the first time. I'm sure it's the first time in a while. I might be misremembering that. But either way, it's a solid episode. It may not be one of the most memorable. I don't think there are that many quotes in it that I particularly use on a daily basis, apart from noodle soup. Although, interestingly, I don't say soup, which is surprising. Because, like many people, I find that my vocabulary has been altered quite heavily because of Friends. Not intentionally, it just, when you watch it a lot, it happens. But I don't think I've ever said soup. Only ever noodle soup. Interesting. It's not that interesting, but I find it to be quite fun as an episode regardless, even if it isn't the most memorable, but I think it touches on some really interesting points regardless, with Rachel particularly in smoking. But also, what would you do if you were the Joey in that situation? I think Joey, if he'd been given the gig, absolutely fine in his own right, but also Ben is adorable, and it would have been really cute to see him on a commercial. Great episode. Really thoroughly enjoyed it. Maybe not an all-time favourite, but it's still pretty brilliant.